Hey, what is going on, guys? So this just doesn't seem to take an end. Someone asked me on social media. I did 2 videos. I did this completely responsive mobile first approach to a web page. And yeah, they liked it. So they asked me to do a black and white version of this. So we had a button down here and it changed everything into black and white. But now people also want me to do a dark mode. So you know, dark mode is pretty popular. Now dark mode is as following. You click on a button and the entire page turns into dark mode. Also down here in our context section, we have all of this. Now we will be using not only CSS and HTML, I will also be using JavaScript. Okay guys, so before we jump into the project, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell in order to get notified whenever I post new videos like this. And also, if you do like this video, then please hit that like button and share it with others. Sharing means caring, don't forget. So, this being said, let's jump into it. Okay guys, so first I want to create not a HTML file. Let's call this dark mode.html. And also create a style of dark mode.css. Now I'm going to link up, so just quickly create a boilerplate and link up only the dark mode. So link, I'm going to link up our dark mode.css. And let's type in here. Should I type here? Yeah, dark mode. Okay, this is going to be just a first quick demonstration. Up here, I'm going to first of all start up with an input. So input with a type of checkbox. All right, and I'm going to give this a ID of DM, dark mode. Underneath our input, we're going to create a main tag, and within the main tag, let's just create an h1 with dark mode. Dark mode, and why am I typing in dark mode? Okay, dark mode, a paragraph tag, lorem, let's say lorem 300. Okay, there we go. Now I would also need some kind of image. I'm going to create here underneath of this a image tag, and let me use the same image as we used. Where do we have our image? Image. Whatever. I'm going to use some sort of an image from Unsplashed again. Let's go into HTML and copy this in. And after this, I'm going to again, after image, we're going to create another paragraph tag and a lorem 300. Hey, lorem 300. There we go. Okay, let's open this up in live server. So, hey, didn't open up. Let's try this again. Open live server, and there we go. Okay, so there's our beautiful image. Great. Up here we have our input, checkbox, and yeah. So how can we create that dark mode effect? Well, now let's go into our dark mode style CSS, and within here I'm going to grab onto the input tag. You know, we can also grab onto types. So the input tag with a type of checkbox. This is equal to checkbox. Now when I hover it, I want the cursor to be pointer, so just a few general settings. I'm going to give it a z index of 1 because this can be hidden, and a position not relative but absolute. So I want to position this absolute in a web page to the top of 10 pixels and to the left with 35 viewport widths. I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. Okay, let's also type in here comment of this is dark mode. I'll leave a bit of space there. So I grabbed onto our input. So checkbox, there it is. There's our little checkbox, is now positioned absolute. Okay, next up, we're going to grab onto the ID. Let's see. And when this is checked, so in the state of check, there we're going to use our squirrely selector again, which means select every element that are preceded by the first element. We're going to use our star selector. So everything that is in the web page should get a filter of invert 100. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, this is checked. Now when we check it, check out the text and the photo. Boom, not cool. But we can fix this. Now I'm going to grab onto that main tag that we created, and I'm going to give this a color, so a background color of FFF. Now immediately as I do this, and I go back into our page and click on this checkbox, hey, what do you know? The color changes to, well, dark. So, now also let me take out the margins. So, margin 0 and padding 0. Because we didn't take it out here. Okay, let's try this again. Bam, bam. Okay, this is pretty cool. Now, next up, I'm going to take our input tag. I'm going to take this. But now I'm going to tell it that before, it should have some kind of content. So content, and we're going to type in here, dark mode. Now let's also style it a bit. So it should have a width of 80 pixels. I'm going to display it as flex. It should have a color, a text color of white, and a background color of, let's say, a gray color. Now let's also give it a bit of a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, and 20 pixels left and right. And let's also, when we hover over it, the cursor should be pointed. So cursor, pointer. Okay. Now let's check this out. So there's our input tag, totally changed, isn't it? And it's still working. Now whenever I click on it, it has the same effect. Now after I click on that button, I wanted to transform it in something that tells me that I can now change it to a light. So from a dark mode to a light mode, and from a light mode to a dark mode. So when it is checked, the before should change into, I'm going to delete this dark mode, and let's type in here light mode. Now everything that is in here, I'm going to leave it as it is. So the width, the display, the cursor, the pointer, but I want to change its color to be reversed. Okay, so let's try this out. So when I click on it and it's checked, then the background color turns light and the text turns, well, dark. Now the next thing that we need to take care of is this image. The problem with this is that it inverts its color and it has a lot of colors. So I'm going to grab onto the image tag and we can do something with it. Let me position, because this is looking awful. So 750 pixel, let's say, and a height of 500 pixels. That should be enough. Let's take a look. And that's much smaller. Okay. Now all we need to do for the image is tell it that the filter should be inherit. Okay, let's click on save, and hey, where you know? There we go. Now let's do this to our web page now. But this is a bit more complicated. We actually need to use JavaScript in order to achieve this. And it has something to do with the selector. Now, when we told this, where do we have it? Dark mode, this input tag to select everything that's in the main. In this case, when we have a title and a bit of a text and an image, it works, but you will see that it will not work in our project. So let's get started. Now I need this input tag, And just copy it, go into our project, and paste it in above our main. So right here. But I'm going to rename this to dark mode. Underscore and mode. Now I don't need any label for it. I'm just going to leave it as an input. I'm going to go now to the dark mode, and actually let me also create a partial. So underscore dark mode dot SCSS, and let's also import it. So let's copy this one, go down here, and dark mode. Okay, let me close this up. Close up the HTML. From the CSS, I'm actually going to copy everything. Go into our dark mode, paste it in. I'm going to change a few things. So we don't need this. We don't need the main. But I do need to check if I gave it a color. So dark mode, we don't need you. But the entire body, so within our main here, our body should have, it actually needs that color. So background color, white. Okay. Let's check out our project here. Okay, so this is working until now. Do we have our checkbox? Hey, where's our where's our input? Oh yeah, I think I know where the problem is. Don't worry. So let's go back into our dark mode, and let me just change a couple of things. Now, this right here, this actually needs to be the before and after input checkbox. This needs to be the ID of dark underscore mode. In order for this to work, let's check out our project. Okay, there's a dark mode, and it's working. So, or at least this is working. Now let's also, we don't need this for the images. I'm going to delete this, dark mode, dark mode, dark mode, and the ID. Okay, I'm going to change this. Here we go. So let's see what will happen if we click on it. It will say, hey, but we did do that with the images, and why is this transforming and the other one not, and where is everything? As I said, the problem is with the type of how we are selecting this. And in order to achieve what we achieved by a simple web page or with a simple text and the image, we need to use JavaScript. So let's go back, and let's create, first of all, a JavaScript file. Let's go in here and let's type in, oh, not there, and let's say main.js. Okay, and let's also import it in our index. So let's go down above our body and say script with the source of main.js. Okay. Now for the styling, we can actually close everything up. We don't need actually anything. So let's jump into JavaScript, and now I'm going to split up the display a bit. So let's go in here and let me resize this. Okay, and I also need to inspect and see the console. There's our console. I'm going to push our console down to the page and go up with the page. Yo, let's get into it. Now, first of all, we need to grab onto a few things. So let's start with const, and we're going to grab onto the dark mode button. So dark mode button, hey, there we go. Let's go ahead and say document dot, I'm going to use get element by ID. You can use query select if you want, but when I'm selecting IDs, I don't know, I like to use get element by ID. So dark mode, and then we need another const. I also want to be able to select the header image. So this one right here, and we will say why. You will see why. That's what I meant. We need to target the images. Okay, so header image, because this image was in the header. So document dot get element by ID. And what was the ID of this I think it was header image. Oh yeah, header image. Easy. Go back in here, paste in our header image, close up the functionality. Let me make this smaller. And let's go for iPad. And let's increase the size. 100%. There we go. Okay. Next up, I'm going to select the last thing that we need. And this time we will need the images. So we will need multiple images. All of the images that are in this page. Now, how can we select them? Well, I will go to document, but this time I'm going to use query selector all. Because I want to be able later on to loop for these images. And I'm going to just select the image tags. Now, let's go ahead and see if we selected everything correctly. So console log, let's log the dark mode button. Let's hit save. There it is. The header image. Let's hit save. This is also working. And let me actually zoom in a bit here. Okay, so there's a header image. And if we select the images, let's see what happens. We will get a node list. Yay! And this means we can loop through it again later on. Now for the functionality. Let's go down here. Let's say const social. And exactly, we also need down here. Hey, you pretty lady. Let me see our social icons. The problem with those are that when we click on our dark mode, they also need to change the color. So we will achieve this also by clicking inspect, and we need the console. We don't want the elements. Go away, issue. I don't care about you. So let's go in here. Show social media. Social media. Icons. Okay, let's go document dot query selector. And I'm going to use now query selector, select from somewhere specific. So from the ID of social media icons, I'm going to select now using query selector all of the FAB classes. Now why am I doing this? Because you could have multiple FABs in your web page, but using this way, we can now specifically select from we first of all selecting the ID, and then we're selecting the classes, all of the classes within their ID. Now, if I would console log, this will not work, so I'm not going to hit save. I need to go with the console log down here, and hey, there are social media icons. Okay, now this is done. Now we want, when we click on our button here, hey, not you, when we click on our dark mode, I also go down to the images. I'm going to show you this. You can see all of our items here. Well, they're not pretty. Let's just say they're not pretty. One thing I forgot to do, I actually forgot to assign this right here a color. So let me go back into our style, and let's give our main, and there's our main, a background color of FFF. Okay, let's hit save, and now this is working. Okay, excellent. So we have this as black, and also this one's as a black color. So sorry about that, forgot that. Okay, let's go back into our JavaScript. Now we want to grab onto the button, and when we click the button, so add an event listener to it, and we'll listen to, well, not to a click. We will actually listen to a change, because this is changing its state. Now when it's changing its state, we want to be able to target this. So we want to be able to target the event. I'm going to use here a arrow function, and this event is actually if the event dot target dot checked. So if it is checked, then I'm going to type in a comment, do something, and else Well, do something else. Now, what should it do? Well, it should take the header image, so that we logged up here, and it should style it by adding to it a filter, and the filter should have, I'm going to use backticks here, because I need a variable. Actually, I don't need a variable, but I am going to use backticks here, because I'm going to use a parenthesis. So it should invert the color to 100. Now, this should already work. So we're targeting the header image, don't forget. So if I click on dark mode, hey, this is working, and we need to take care of the other images now. For the images, wait just a sec, when we click on it again, now we have a problem. Now this is where we're going to solve it with our else. Else, let's copy this. The image header dot style dot filter will be inverted to 0. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's click on it, and let's click on it again. Light mode, dark mode, light mode, dark mode, and it stays the same. Okay, now we need to do the same thing for all of our images and for our social media icons. So next up, we're going to take our images. Now there are multiple images, so we need to loop through them. I'm going to use a for each loop. And I'm going to say here, I'm going to use a for each loop, takes in a callback function. And for each image, we are going to take that image, change the style with a filter, and the same thing that we did up there, we will invert it to 100. I'm going to take this, copy it, go down, else, and change it to 0. Okay, so let's see if this is working. Dark mode, let's go down. And hey, it's working. And if I click on light mode, it's also working. Hey, excellent. Now the last thing they need to do is take care of our social media icons. And you guessed it, it's basically the same thing. So I'm going to copy it down here, and just replace this with that, and copy it one more time down here, and replace this with 0, and let's check it out. So go up, dark mode, let's click on contact, hey contact, take me down, and hey, the icons are now the same color. But what I don't like about this is a lot of code. So we could do something else. We could replace this checking with a functionality. Let's say function, I'm going to call it a check function. And this will take in an argument of invert amount. And now we only need one of these. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and instead of 100, we're going to pass in our argument here of amount, invert amount. Now let's copy this and replace it in both with 100. And now all we need to do, let me comment this out. Oh, go back in here and let's say if, again, the e.target is checked, then check. So we're going to use our function. We'll have the invert amount equal to 100, else the function check will have the invert amount equal to 0. So let's see if this is working. Let's click on dark mode, go down, and hey, let's click on light mode again. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Hope you really enjoyed it.